Preparation builds confidence because when you commit yourself to the process of training with intention, you are not only sharpening your skills, but also teaching your mind that it can be trusted in moments of uncertainty, and that trust becomes the foundation of confidence. Think about how fear works. It thrives in the unknown. It magnifies doubts. It whispers that you're not ready, but the moment you prepare, that fog of uncertainty begins to clear, and what once seemed impossible begins to feel manageable. Training with intention isn't just about going through motions. It's about paying attention to the details, practicing the small things over and over again until they become second nature. And in that repetition, you create a quiet strength that carries into every challenge. The work you put in behind the scenes becomes a shield against anxiety when it's time to step up, because deep down you know you've already faced the struggle in practice. Confidence doesn't arrive by chance or appear overnight. It is constructed piece by piece in every drill, every hour of practice, every time you choose preparation over procrastination. The more you prepare, the more you shrink the gap between what you imagine might happen and what you know you can handle. And that shift is powerful because it allows you to show up fully present instead of paralyzed by fear. Preparation becomes a form of self-respect. It tells your future self that you cared enough to give yourself every chance to succeed, and that kind of investment breeds courage. When challenges come, the unprepared scramble, but the prepared breathe a little easier, not because the task is less demanding, but because they've already walked the hard road in private and built the muscles to carry the weight. That is why people who train with intention appear calm and grounded in difficult situations. They aren't untouched by nerves. They just know their preparation will catch them when doubt tries to pull them down. Confidence, then, is not arrogance or bravado. It is the quiet assurance that comes from knowing you've done the work, that you've faced the difficulties before they arrived, that you've rehearsed resilience in advance. In the end, preparation transforms fear into readiness, doubt into determination, and uncertainty into confidence, showing that when you train hard with purpose, you don't just get better at the skill, you get stronger within yourself, and that strength becomes the true advantage when it's time to rise to the challenge. Discipline over motivation is the mindset that separates those who wish from those who achieve, because the truth is, motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes like the weather, and if you depend on it to carry you, you'll move forward only on the good days and stall completely on the hard ones. But discipline asks something deeper, something steadier. It asks you to show up even when you're tired, even when the excitement has faded, even when no one is watching and the spark feels dim, because discipline is a commitment, not a feeling. Training is rarely about waiting for the perfect mood. It's about putting your shoes on when you'd rather stay in bed. It's about lifting the weight when your arms ache. It's about repeating the same drill over and over again, not because you're inspired in the moment, but because you've decided who you want to become and you're willing to pay the price. Discipline builds a foundation that doesn't crack under shifting emotions because it relies on choice, not impulse, and the more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. People often think success comes from bursts of inspiration, but the reality is that greatness is born in the ordinary, in the daily, in the unglamorous moments where you show up for yourself again and again. Motivation may get you started, but it cannot carry you through the inevitable storms of fatigue, doubt, or distraction. Only discipline has that kind of endurance. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you are training your mind to trust you, to believe that when you say you'll do something, you will follow through, and that trust becomes power. Discipline doesn't silence resistance. It just refuses to bow to it, and in doing so, it turns the act of training into a habit that no longer depends on how you feel in the moment. It transforms struggle into structure, chaos into order, and effort into progress, and the reward is that you arrive prepared, strong, and capable when challenges demand your best. The ease you see in others is not born from endless motivation. It is the fruit of relentless discipline, the proof that they showed up on the days they didn't feel like it, and because they did, their work now carries the grace of consistency. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to be, and while motivation may knock on the door once in a while, discipline is the one who stays, who lives with you daily, who demands more of you and gives more in return, reminding you that the path to mastery is not carved by moods, but by choices made over and over again in the quiet determination to honor your commitment no matter how you feel. Small repetitions create big results because the human mind and body are shaped by what they do consistently, not by what they do occasionally, and when you commit yourself to repeating the small, often overlooked actions day after day, you are planting seeds of mastery that eventually bloom into strength, skill, and confidence. At first, repetition can feel dull, even pointless, because progress is invisible in the beginning, and the mind craves instant results. But what we fail to see in those early stages is that each small effort is stacking silently, building layers of resilience and ability until one day what once felt heavy becomes light, what once seemed complicated becomes natural, and what once required every ounce of focus flows almost effortlessly. Training is not about chasing big leaps all at once. It's about teaching yourself to return again and again, to put one brick on top of another, to refine the basics until they are so ingrained in you that they become second nature. Every repetition is a rehearsal for the real test, and every time you practice with intention, you carve deeper grooves of skill and discipline into your mind. So when the moment comes to perform, you no longer struggle with the basics. They're already hardwired into you. This is why those who appear graceful and composed under pressure often seem almost magical. They're not relying on luck. They're relying on the thousands of small moments of practice that no one else witnessed. Consistency in small repetitions not only builds ability, it builds trust within yourself, a quiet assurance that when challenges arrive, you have the stamina and preparation to meet them. The truth is, greatness rarely looks like grand gestures. It looks like the person who kept showing up when progress felt invisible, who kept repeating the same drill when others grew bored, who kept adding one more rep when quitting would have been easier. Over time, those repetitions accumulate, and suddenly the difficult becomes manageable, the complex becomes simple, and the overwhelming becomes routine. The ease that others admire is not a gift. It is earned in the shadows, in the quiet, in the ordinary practice of showing up again and again. Small repetitions also humble you, reminding you that growth is not instant but layered, that every big result is really the sum of countless tiny efforts that no one applauded. They teach patience, they build resilience, and they transform persistence into progress in ways that can't always be measured day to day, but reveal themselves powerfully over time. So when the hard parts of work arise, you find yourself meeting them with surprising ease, not because they are easy in themselves, but because you've trained your body and mind through consistent repetition to carry the weight without breaking. In the end, repetition becomes the silent architect of transformation, proving that the ordinary act of doing something small again and again is what leads to the extraordinary. Resilience is built in the practice room because it is in those hidden hours of struggle, repetition, and effort that you learn how to endure, how to bend without breaking, and how to rise stronger when the real challenges arrive. And while the world may only see the performance, the truth is that the strength to withstand pressure is forged in the quiet grind of preparation. Every time you stumble during training, every time you miss the mark, every time fatigue tempts you to give in, but you choose to keep going, you are teaching yourself that setbacks are not the end, but an invitation to adapt, to grow, to refine. Training is not only about building skill. It is about shaping character, about strengthening the inner muscles of patience, persistence, and grit that allow you to face adversity with steadiness instead of panic. Struggles in the practice room are controlled storms. They test you, stretch you, push you to the edge, but they also provide a safe space to fail, to learn, and to rise without the weight of the world watching. And in doing so, they prepare you for the storms you will inevitably face outside. Resilience doesn't come from comfort. It is born from friction, from the repeated choice to show up despite frustration, from the discipline of trying again when yesterday left you drained, from the ability to confront your own weaknesses without running from them. In those moments of practice where nothing seems to click, where progress feels painfully slow, you are quietly building endurance. You are learning that difficulty is not a signal to quit, but a signal to dig deeper. When the real test comes, a performance, a competition, a challenge in life, you don't crumble under the weight because you've already carried it before. You've already faced resistance. You've already practiced getting back up. Resilience is not the absence of struggle. It is the memory of having survived struggle before, the inner knowing that you can withstand pressure because you've rehearsed it in advance. This is why the practice room matters so much. It is the arena where you learn not just to perfect your skill, but to perfect your response to failure, to fatigue, to disappointment. Each repetition where you push through discomfort builds a little more toughness, a little more confidence, a little more trust in your own strength. And while others may look for shortcuts, the resilient are formed by staying in the fire long enough to become unbreakable. That's the gift of training. It's not just shaping your craft, it's shaping your spirit, teaching you to bend gracefully instead of snapping under strain, preparing you to stand tall when life demands your best. So when challenges arrive, they don't overwhelm you in the same way, because deep down you know you've already been tested, you've already been stretched, and you've already proven to yourself that resilience is not something you wait for. It's something you build, rep by rep, struggle by struggle in the practice room long before the world is watching. Trust the process, not the outcome, because the journey of training is less about immediate results and more about building habits that sustain you when progress feels slow. And the truth is, outcomes are often unpredictable, shaped by factors beyond your control, but the process is always within your reach, always something you can choose and commit to day after day. When you place your energy in the process, you anchor yourself in action rather than anxiety, because instead of obsessing over when the finish line will appear, you focus on the steps you can take right now, and those steps, repeated consistently, create the foundation of growth. Training is not a straight line. It is full of plateaus, setbacks, and moments where it feels like nothing is moving forward. But if you've built strong habits, you will keep showing up, and that persistence keeps the fire alive when the outcome seems far away. Outcomes are deceptive. They can make you believe you're failing when in reality you're simply in the middle of transformation, and it is the process that reassures you, that whispers, "Stay the course," even when your progress isn't visible. Every habit you cultivate, waking up to practice, refining small details, returning to the work despite fatigue, becomes a thread that weaves resilience and skill into your character. And eventually, those threads form a fabric strong enough to carry you through any challenge. Trusting the process means valuing consistency over perfection, effort over applause, and patience over instant gratification. And when you do, you realize that the person you are becoming through the work matters more than any single result. Habits shape identity, and identity shapes destiny. This is why the process is everything, because it is not just what you do, but who you are training yourself to be. Each time you choose the process, you affirm that progress is not measured only by trophies or recognition, but by the quiet victories of discipline, persistence, and inner strength. The outcome may take months or even years to arrive, but if your habits are strong, you will endure the waiting without losing faith. Trusting the process also frees you from the burden of control, because you accept that results will come when they are ready, and your job is not to force them, but to prepare for them. This shift in perspective allows you to find meaning in the journey itself, to celebrate small steps, and to embrace the growth happening along the way. The irony is that when you stop chasing outcomes and start honoring the process, the outcomes eventually arrive with more consistency and grace than if you had obsessed over them from the start. So training becomes less about chasing some distant result and more about embodying the habits that make success inevitable, proving that trust in the process is not blind faith, but a deliberate choice to anchor yourself in what you can control, knowing that over time, those habits will carry you exactly where you're meant to go. Ease is earned, not given, because what appears effortless in the eyes of others is almost always the result of countless unseen hours of preparation, persistence, and deliberate practice that took place long before the moment of performance. And the truth is, nothing worth mastering comes without struggle, sacrifice, and repetition that most people will never witness. When you see someone move with grace through a challenge, whether it is on a stage, in a competition, or in the course of everyday life, it is tempting to believe they were simply gifted or that it came naturally to them. But beneath that polished ease lies the weight of discipline, the morning when fatigue tried to silence effort, the evenings when doubt hovered like a shadow, and the countless times they chose to keep going despite progress being slow or invisible. Ease is a reflection of persistence that has worn away resistance, of training that has reshaped weakness into strength, of repetition that has built resilience into muscle and mind until what was once overwhelming now feels natural. Behind every smooth delivery, every seamless performance, every calm response in the face of pressure, there are endless hours of preparation, often lonely, often unnoticed, but always essential. The path to ease is not glamorous. It is paved with frustration, with moments of failure, with the grit of getting back up when falling felt easier than trying again. But over time, that persistence accumulates, and slowly, the mountain that once seemed impossible to climb becomes familiar ground, and you move across it with a lightness that others mistake for effortlessness. Ease is not about the absence of effort. It is about the mastery that comes after effort has been poured into the same task again and again until the edges are smoothed and the movements are ingrained. To the outside world, it looks like magic, but to the one who has earned it, it is the natural outcome of dedication. This is why people who succeed at the highest levels often emphasize the importance of practice and consistency. They know that the ease others admire is simply the residue of hard work transformed into habit. It is also why shortcuts rarely last, because without the foundation of persistence, what looks easy will quickly collapse under pressure. True ease is durable. It withstands stress because it was forged in difficulty, in the crucible of repetition, where failure was not the end, but the teacher. And perhaps the most powerful part of earning ease is the transformation that happens within. You don't just get better at the task. You grow into someone who can carry challenges with strength and grace. Someone who can meet pressure with calm, not because it is easy, but because you have prepared yourself to make it so. Ease is therefore the reward of persistence, the quiet proof that unseen effort never goes to waste, and that what looks natural and fluid to the world is in fact the visible echo of invisible hours spent earning it.